Right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. My guest, a remarkable young man who earlier this year, and I knew him before he put his hat in the ring, and even though he knew of my affiliation with the party, said not a single word to me all the time we were speaking. And he's now the SLP candidate for the constituency of Meekwood North. I'm on record, St. Lucia has already stating that if no disrespect to anybody who has run that seat before, that he is the best candidate the Labour Party has ever fielded in that seat since 1964, which is when John Compton first ran it in 1960. So I guess by now you recognize that my guest is Jeremiah Norbert. Every now and then I still find myself falling into the trap of referring to him as Police Constable 802. But that's all right. So Jeremiah, thank you for being here. I know you were due to be the last time, but you couldn't make it. And,
yes.
But thanks for being here at very short notice too, so appreciate you being here.
All right. Thank you, Claudius.
Tell us, who is Jeremiah Norbert?
Good evening, Claudius. Good evening, St. Lucia. Good evening, Meekwood North. Before we start off, I would like to shout out Miss Tenny Raffin. I know she's locked in on the USVI.
Right, yeah.
Yes, Candice and Matthew in Martinique, always locked on also. I might also like to express sincere condolences to Gabby, James, Peter, and the Peter family in Prowley. This is the grandmother of Janet James, who we know as Oshun.
Oshun, okay.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, Oshun.
Yes,
her grandmother. I like to encourage them to remain strong and continue to pray and ask that God comfort them and console them in these difficult times. Okay, so who is Jeremiah Norbert?
Apart from being police officer 80, well, not
820.
820, not anymore.
Yeah. Jeremiah Norbert is the eldest of Marika Norbert's 10 children. My father is Wallace Pelius, born and raised in the community of La Pointe, Monrepo. I attended the Pastures Combined School in my formative years, walked down the road every day up and down to school. From there, I went on to attend the Vieux-Fort Comprehensive School. I think it's obvious now that everybody knows that I stem from very humble beginnings. You understand? As I said, I'm the eldest of 10 children. I'm 31 years old, so you can imagine what it would have been like. Very troublesome character at Vieux-Fort Comprehensive. Very, very troublesome.
She says that as if he's no longer troublesome. Don't buy that. Don't buy that.
What I'm saying is that you can be troublesome, and that does not prevent you from being something in the future. You understand? So it's not about where you start, more or less about where you end up at the end of the race. So at Vieux-Fort Comprehensive, I thought that was the end of it for me. In terms of academic qualifications, I felt, okay, now it's time to go into the world of work. Fortunately, at that time, I got adopted. And then I came up to Castries. It did not get any easier when I got to Castries. But I attended the Sir Lewis Community College, Division of Arts and General Sciences. There I did management of business, sociology, communication studies, and economics. I've always had a keen interest in politics. And I heard you said earlier that you knew me way before I became the endorsed candidate, and I never gave you any hint of me wanting to get into politics, because I think in the profession of policing, you have to understand that, you have a job to do, and I don't think that, a problem that we have right now is the amount of political patronage and the amount of political interference in the police force. And you try not to be a victim of this type of things as a young policeman, and I never wanted to find myself caught up in it.
But what caused you to gravitate towards being a police officer?
to be quite honest, Claudius, it was not me gravitating towards being a police officer. That was what was available at the time. That was the last, when I was thinking of an occupation to get myself into, that was the last thing on my mind. I remember prior to joining the police force in 2010, I used to work on a coal farm. With all my A-levels, I used to work on a coal farm, and I said that everywhere for $20 a day. And that's why I encourage young people every time to not give up on their goals, or not to get sidetracked or believe that you have to gravitate towards a negative if you've not made it. I mean, you have to have some sort of patience, and you need to have faith and know that, okay, one day your breakthrough is going to come. My breakthrough was my mother coming to me with this form. I think at the time, Miss Pelius is the Assistant Commissioner of Police. She's related to me, so my mom went to her, got a form and said, oh, Jeremiah, you need to fill this form. I felt at the time I did not want to take my mother seriously, because I knew there was no way. I knew that there was no way that I was going to become a police officer. I was in fear that the background check would reveal certain things. The fact that I mentioned that I was very troublesome, always in a fight. You understand? So I figured when these things were revealed in the background check, they immediately put an X by my name. But, you know, to fulfill my mother's wishes and to get her happy, I figured,
you always have to follow your mother's dreams. You can't let her down, yeah.
So I did just that, fill out the form. I remember getting a phone call asking me to come to training school for an interview. At the time, Claudius, I can tell you, I did not know how to tie a tie. So I can remember I had an Adventist uncle who gave me a tie to go to the interview. So I just took that and I put it around my neck some way, somehow, and I just put, so it was more like a scarf with two ends, you understand? And I walked into the interview room. Thank God at the time I met with ex-commissioner of police, Mr. Vernon Faswa, who, as soon as I got into the room, he asked me, man, who did this to you? I knew that he was commenting on my tie, because I knew. So he came, he took off the tie, he did a perfect knot for me, and then he placed my tie, and then he started the interview. Made me very comfortable. Long story short, I went for training school, graduated as best recruit. Upon leaving the training school.
Actually, I went to Viewfort on a matter for my company, which involved, it was a motorcycle fatality. And the investigating officer was in your batch. Jean-Louis, I'm trying to remember his name now.
Yeah.
His Corporal Ann Joseph is what, 806?
Yes, so he's 802 Jerif. And I'm 820 Norbert. But all of us trained together.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I said, he said, okay.
Yeah, we worked at the CID together. So yes, I mean, when I left training school, I went to the Criminal Investigations Department. I spent 6 years there.
But policing was the last thing you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But you began to enjoy it.
Yeah. When I went to work at the CID, what policing did for me is it exposed me to young people like myself who had been marginalized and ostracized, and I knew, I mean, I could have related to their situation, whatever they did. I mean, and what made it very easy for me is that when I went to the most vulnerable areas in the Castries Basin, I found it very easy to identify with these young men and these young people who we consider or we label as delinquent. And I knew very well that some of them they're not actually delinquent, but it was because of, I mean, they have been marginalized for so long, and they're looking for somewhere where they get a sense of belonging, and hence the reason they find themselves, I mean, the vulnerable areas where we deem ghettos make them feel at home. And I felt that way myself at some point in my life, so I understood their situation, and then I got that passion to work with these young people, to work with people who have been put aside or deemed. Because I said, I have a brother who has fallen victim, who has fallen between the cracks on several occasions. You understand? So I know what it is when you see young people behave a certain way, or they deviate from what is normal. So after 6 years at the Criminal Investigations Department, I left. When I was transferred, I requested a transfer. I wanted to feel a different environment. I had a lot of the office exposure, so I wanted to get some outdoor and some field training. So I went to the drug unit, where I spent 4 years. During that time at the drug unit, I met my wife. I'm married. I have 2 wonderful boys. Yes, my wife is a medical doctor. and we have a wonderful family. So whilst at the drug unit, as I said, I always had a passion for politics, especially in Mikudnov. And I have to get back to Mikudnov because, I mean, it stunned me as a young man growing up that for so many years that we've supported a certain political party, and that of the United Workers' Party. And you ask, what have you received for such loyalty? And there are not many people that you're going to speak to in the constituency, especially the more senior persons, that can point to tangible things that you can say, or the development in the constituency. And I feel like it was more or less blind following. And it was like the mentality is one where, you know, me fet flabo na more flabo. And I felt there is a need to break that status quo. And that is what really drew me into the politics. So as we speak, I'm in the process of completing a bachelor's degree with the University of West Indies in political science. This has always been my passion. I said if it was policing for me, I probably would have done something in forensic or law or criminal justice. But for me, as I said, I always had a passion for politics. Even at nights when I have to do my schoolwork, and if I miss a budget debate, I would spend the rest of the night and I put my schoolwork aside watching the rebroadcast of a budget debate. Yeah.
So, but who would you say, if any, you like politics, but who would you say would have been the person who inspired you, if any single individual?
I would not say there is. I have a special place in my heart for Sean Edwards and Alva Baptist, but that was just because of how they delivered, yes, and how they delivered. And but when we look at the deeper side of politics, and I look at Dr. Kennedy Anthony, this is a man that I admired from a very tender age. I mean, I watched this man walk up onto the stage and I listened to him speak. And even when I review some of the policies that he's implemented, and some of these policies, my mother benefited from them. And these are the things that I tell people. You need to not be blind, because politics affects the lives of everybody. We cannot run away or get away from the fact that politics affects us. And that's why it hurts me as a young man to see so many young people tell you point blank that they're not interested in politics and they're just not voting because, you know, but politics really and truly affects their lives. It affects the price of the goods in the supermarket, the fuels that they pump, the different policies. I mean, how accessible schools are, universal healthcare, all of these things, policies, these things are affected by politics and who we choose to represent us. So for me, you must have some sort of interest because it affects your livelihood. So, and when I mentioned Dr. Kennedy Anthony, I remember having a conversation with my mother as to, because my mother has been a staunch UWP supporter, and my entire family per se, staunch UWP supporters. And I asked my mother, I mean, I'm not saying that any government is supposed to give you any handout, but let's look at UWP versus SLP. You having 10 children, what have you benefited in terms of policies? My mother was one of the biggest beneficiaries of the laptop program because every year you have a child going to for free, so right, you have a child, you understand? Yeah. Also the bursary program where the $500 for the new entrance into secondary school, she benefited. Other than that, I cannot think of anything where I can say that my mother or somebody who falls in the category that my mother was in have benefited from. So I told her, if we're having an honest discussion and you need to look at what is happening and you need to make a fair decision and say, here's why I'm going to vote, you have a reason. But just to say that I'm going to vote because I'm flabo and I'm more flabo. And I think that is what has failed us in the constituency also, is the mentality that I have been born this way, my grandparents. And you know what I'm thankful for? Is that the young people in Mikudnov are showing, there's like a paradigm shift. Like, you know, we're no longer going to say that my mother is going to tell me where to vote. And they're more like independent thinkers. And they're telling you, when I'm voting where I want to vote. Yeah?
I met your mom two Saturdays ago, I think it was 2 Saturdays ago, in Miku, and I can tell you, she's very proud of you. She didn't tell me anything about that police part, but but she's clearly very proud of you and the young man you have become. So let's fast forward a little. You have an interest in politics. You looked at politics and you said, for you, the party that more reflects or better reflects your own views, etc., would be the Labour Party. So you did what? You just send an application, or who did you speak with?
There was divine intervention in that, you know. Yes, as you said, I mean, I had to choose. If you want to get into politics, you have to choose a side, and that's what it is. Some people tell you, "Oh, go up independent." We know what the story is. With
You're a pragmatic person,
you
so that's not good. Yeah.
So, for me, the St. Lucia Labour Party, the policies of the St. Lucia Labour Party, the views of the St. Lucia Labour Party, the ideals, bread, freedom, justice, are more aligned with my own views than that of the United Workers' Party. So it was easy for me to gravitate towards the St. Lucia Labour Party. As it pertains to becoming the candidate, as I said, there was divine intervention in all of that. And that is why I tell people right now that I'm confident. And when I say I'm confident, I say that with no element of doubt in my mind, that this time around, that Mick North is going to change to red and is going to come to the St. Lucia Labour Party. And I'm saying that on the premise that when we win this seat in Mick North, I want persons to hold me, I want people to hold me accountable, the constituents of Mick North to hold me accountable, that because I think I'll be doing an injustice to the people of Mick North to come here and make so much noise and to ask that we make history this time around, and for us to go back to old times and just figure, you know, what obtains in Mick North right now is disheartening. You understand? It's very disheartening. And for me, I feel that I can make I have a valuable contribution to make to my constituency. The opportunity came, and it's a perfect time.
But you're going to tell us about how that opportunity came about.
Yeah, it came. There are very few people who knew of, and as I said, you met me before, and you never knew of my interest in politics. Never. I never.
We never discussed
that.
politics.
Yes.
I mean, we spoke quite often. I never discussed any politics.
Yeah, I think I spoke to you about insurance, not politics.
Yeah.
So there are few people who knew of my interest. It happened one day, and it was a sequence of events, and it happened very fast, where I was approached, and we had a conversation. I mean, it was the right time. It was the right time. So one thing led to the other. The next thing I knew, I was the candidate for Mick North for the St. Lucia Labour Party. But
there were other candidates, so
yes.
How confident were you at the time? Because some of those candidates had been in politics a long time.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know, Claudius, what's your take on divine intervention. But you see, when some things are bound to happen, there's absolutely nothing that's going to stop it. And I think this was my time. It has proven to be my time. Despite whatever, all the other candidates, and I can say I have the support of most of these candidates. They have been there with me, rallying with me, supporting me. And I'd like to thank them for their commitment towards the cause, because I think we all have one common goal, one common objective, and that is to change what obtains in Mick North right now, and to bring some real light and some real development to the constituency of Mick North.
Your love for politics, what has taken place thus far? Is it what you thought it would be? Is it different, better, or worse?
Claudius, I'll be quite frank with you. I think earlier you mentioned a lot of people have a tendency to try to discourage you at once, especially Christians. Christians tell you, boy, politics is not a place for Christians, or politics is not a place for good people, or even now they put it, politics as there is no place for good boys in politics, if you want to put it that way. But you made a statement earlier that politics provides the avenue for us to foster corruption if we already inclinated that way. You understand? So if you come with it allows you, it permits you to, however,
if you come with your integrity.
You understand?
Yeah.
And we look at the leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party. As much as people speak of corruption, I don't see one finger pointing at Honorable JP. You understand? And I'm proud to be under the stewardship of such a leader. And I know within myself, even last night he mentioned it on a Zoom meeting, that he will hold everyone within his accountable for their actions, and that he will see to it that corruption, he will try everything within his power to ensure that corruption does not exist, or even if it doesn't, even if it exists, it's dealt with. If it comes up, that is dealt with. So I know it's not an easy role. I'm not going to make anybody believe that politics is something that you come in. I mean, I just came in and I've heard things about myself that I did not even know before. You understand? And these things, I expect these things. You understand? I think this is the nature of politics. We cannot run away from the fact that this is the nature of politics. However, if your passion is greater than your fear, and that is what it is for me. The passion is there, and there's nothing that is going to prevent me. No power, GT, and a lot of people, they formulate, they fabricate all sorts of things about you, and this is not going to be a deterrent or a hindrance. Let me tell you what this has done, more or less, has propelled me. And as I said, I understand what it is. I knew that it came with that aspect of it, where people are going to fabricate things about you. Other than that, it is exactly what I expected.
But you talked about integrity earlier on.
Yes.
And in fact, one of the things you did, which so many people have spoken about when I speak with them, is the integrity of which you dealt, you handled yourself regarding your candidacy. The minute you decided, or you were told by the leadership of the party that you would be the candidate, the first thing you did was to write your resignation and hand it in. How difficult was that? Because by that time, you had been a police officer for 10 years.
Yeah. It took me a few minutes to write up this resignation. Because this was my window of opportunity. This was what I have been waiting for. So it was, I mean, I miss the camaraderie, I miss my police friends, my police comrades. I learned a lot from the organization, and for that I say I'm always thankful to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force for helping me become the man that I am today. But it was not a very difficult thing for me to pen my resignation letter and bring it to the commissioner.
Fulfilling your dream.
Yeah. So for me that was, I knew.
What was the reaction of your colleagues?
I can tell you from most senior officers, they called me and tell me, that people like me should be getting ready to take over the helm of the organization, and politics is difficult, and I'm already established, try to encourage me not to get into politics. For me, I believe, and although, Claudius, I must say I have my issues with this, and I've mentioned it with the political leader, that if you find yourself within public service, that you have to resign altogether. If you want to serve higher and you want to get into politics, that you have to resign and go into politics. When I find harsh reality is that we have a situation where we have a lot of brains within public service, a lot of brains, people who have gone on to attain doctorates, bachelors, masters, a lot of people who are, and they have a contribution that they can make, yet still they're afraid, or they feel, boy, I've already given up so much of my life, 20 years in the service, for me to go and resign, and what's there for me, and they will look at the cost. And yet still you have, I'm not looking down on any bus driver, but any bus driver or anybody can just get up today and decide that they want to be a politician, and they don't have to give up their own jobs. And they decide, if I lose, I just go back to bus driving. No, they never even have to stop driving their bus altogether.
Well, to be fair, these are private enterprises as opposed to
I understand.
governmental. I think the fear is, by the powers that be themselves, is that that person may attempt to sabotage them. But, for example, I know of a couple of occasions where the Labour Party, people who left to run against the Labour Party, and the Labour Party won, and those people were actually given their jobs back. I know at least 2 occasions. So, in Dominica, I think he was a police corporal, left the force, went into politics, and is now the National Security Minister. Blackburn, I think he was Blackmore. You think he was a corporal? I'm not too sure. He certainly was a police officer, not very high ranking, but I think he was just a corporal or somebody. Okay, so, but I've seen you in the campaign through, Jeremiah, and there is a joy in your face when you're campaigning. It's as if you enjoy that, do you?
Oh yes, Claudius. And the reception on the ground has been very, very encouraging, and hence the reason why you always see this smile on my face and this joy on my face. And the reason you see this joy is that people are buying into what is happening with my campaign right now. And what the philosophy of our campaign is that Miku Sesano, Miku belongs to us. And when I say to us, I mean to the entire constituency, not to a certain cross-section. And a lot of people feel in the community for too long, a few people have been benefiting from every single project that happens in the community. And the majority of people in the community are sidelined and they're not being looked after. And I think that they're fed up and tired of what has been happening. And that's why I said they're buying into the idea of Miku Sesanu. And that is how I want it to be. Miku belongs. Claudius and I will say it here tonight, that where Jeremiah Norbert becomes the next parliamentary rep for Miku North, that there will be no red and no yellow, and that partisan politics where we victimize people because of their political affiliation. I tell everyone, my door will be wide open to everyone. Everyone. And I know that there are certain people from the Central Labour Party who may even feel a little...
You're too open.
You understand and say, but you know... But Claudius, let me tell you something. If you're going to ask me to come in and do exactly what obtains right now, just do it on another ticket. Then I might as well stay. Yeah, you might as well just stay with what is there right now. I'm not going to get into politics. I'm not going to come and win the Miku North seat for me to come and victimize people because they did not support me. And I want to let everybody in Miku North know today that my doors are wide open to everyone. I've always been, even my campaign team can tell you, I always encourage them to be all embracing to everyone. Well, Miku belongs to us.
In some of the training we've been doing, I've been seeing people who on my previous campaigns in Miku were clearly United Workers' Party supporters, and they are very much in the bosom of the Labour Party's training exercise, very campaigning for you. So you have made that transition, there's no doubt about it.
And these people are, and Claudius, these people, the reason they're there is because they want to see that change happen in Miku North. And we're not saying, and I can tell you, it's not just change just for saying we want change in Miku North because, oh, Miku North has been flammable all the time and we just want to see Labour. No. That's not what the change is about. Oh, we just want history to happen. No. The change is about seeing the development of the constituency and seeing constituents take responsibility, empowering our people in Miku North. We see that, I mean, when our fishermen cry, that it does not fall on deaf ears. When the farmers tell us about the conditions of the feeder roads, that it does not fall on deaf ears, and that their concerns are actually being heard, and these also be not just being heard, but also being addressed. We have a situation where, I mean, roads are being built in the community as we speak, and you have people from outside coming in, like you import people into our community to do the work, and we have several people within the community. I tell you, right now we have a preschool being built right under our nose, and if you pass by that preschool, you will not find 2 or 3 people from the community working there. And you tell me that if you go down, most communities, when you see, especially when these programs are, I mean, when you have a say in these programs as a parliamentary rep, you can make a determination to ensure that you have people within your community getting small contracts working in these projects. And you have people, I mean, you have an entire company come in and build an entire preschool and not one person in the community benefiting. Absolutely 1%. This is ridiculous. And this is what the people are tired of. They want to see that change, that development in our community, where, and not just change on the surface, you know, Claudius. We're looking at long-term change that's going to benefit the young people coming up. So many young people coming to the constituency. I tell people, Miku North is strategically located to benefit from village tourism. And I say that every day, and it pains me, because you get onto, you get off a plane, you go onto your taxi, and you're heading up north into the hotel basin. The very first place that the taxi stops is on the Muddy Viewpoint Dennery. And there's absolutely no reason to stop in the village of Mikud or somewhere along the road in Mikud. And we're strategically located to benefit from village tourism, and we're contributing towards the village tourism bill like everybody else in St. Lucia. And from the time we made the transition from bananas to tourism, what we have now is a situation where the Mikud North did not benefit from that transition, and we're still paying for that. But I can assure the people of Mikud North, I can assure them that this is soon going to come to an end. And it is showing, I mean, you hear the voices of the people in Mikud, and right now everybody is rallying together for one cause, one main objective, to develop our constituency, develop our community. And that's why I say you need to listen to people. You need to, and I think that is what has worked for me.
But you realize you're not just chasing a seat. You actually going to create history. This is the one, well, we like to say the Labour Party has never won that seat, which is not technically correct, because yes, it used to be the Miku Dennery seat in 1956-60 when John Compton won it. The Miku Dennery seat was one seat. But as a unit by itself, the Henry North, we have never, the Labour Party has never won that seat. Only, and that's the only seat the Labour Party has never won in the political system. So you're chasing history, basically.
Yeah.
Doesn't that daunt you in any way?
Let me tell you. The history, let me tell you, I think the fanatics and the people who are excited by my candidacy are more interested in the history being made than I am. What I'm interested in is, and I know that it's not going to be easy, but what I'm interested in is what my constituents have to say after my first 5 years in government. I would like for them to be happy and satisfied and said, "Nous faisons une bonne décision. We made the right choice." You understand? And that is what keeps me up. The fact that I want my constituents to be able to say at the end of 5 years, this man represented us. This is the type of representation that we were looking for in Mekong North. Not myopic or mediocre kind of representation. You understand?
Before we take a break and open the lines in the next segment, I know your constituents, especially, but St. Lucia generally, is dying for me to ask you this question about, did you think your political aspirations were dashed as a consequence of the accident? Right there, not thereafter, but right there that afternoon of the accident.
Oh no, Claudius. Oh no. Let me tell you, to be quite honest, whilst I was on the ground after I fell off the motorcycle, whilst I was on the ground, first thing that came into my mind was my family. The politics, I'll tell you at what point the politics crossed my mind. When I got to the hospital in Tapio, even at St. Jude's Hospital, and they made mention of my possible options, and they said, I think at the time the best option that they provided was an amputation. Someone in the room asked me, is that going to affect your politics? I cannot remember, but I remember someone asked me if that's going to affect my politics. And I never thought for 1 second that the loss of a limb should or would affect anyone in their political aspirations. And when I got to Martinique, when I left St. Lucia and I got to Martinique, and I had time, you get time to sit on your bed and relax and think. People started rumoring around that the St. Lucia Labour Party was looking for a new candidate because Jeremiah can no longer mount up to the task, and that he's no longer going to be the candidate. And several people started calling me and asking me, is it true that you're no longer going to be the candidate? And you know what was so interesting about it?
That was never true, though.
No, that was never true. But all the calls I got, most of the calls I got were from the constituents, from my constituents. And you know what they said? Yon pied sans pied, c'est ou nous voulez. You understand? So it just showed that, yeah, it said, yon pied sans pied, c'est ou nous voulez. And it just showed that despite what others out there try to create, or the image they create, and I think that this happened, and it has shown that this is just a hurdle. And even today I was at the National Council for Persons with Disability, and I spoke with the president there, Mr. James, and I told him, the National Council should feel proud to know that soon they'll have one of their members sitting in Parliament. Yeah, they should feel very proud, and that should never be a deterrent. And I think that other people should take encouragement from that, and they should take it and see it as that should never be a form of discouragement.
But finally, you began by telling us being a police officer was not the first option. In fact, it was possibly the last option. But wouldn't you say that being a police officer actually conditioned you for what transpired?
Oh yes. And that's why I said I'm very thankful for my experience within the police force, because it molded me into a particular level. I mean, it made me more resilient. I learned a lot being a police officer, because whilst at the criminal investigations, I mean, you have aggrieved persons coming to you every day. It taught me a lot about being patient, showing off my customer service skills, and that worked very well for me as a policeman. A lot of commendations I got was because of my customer service skills, and I always said, I mean, you're serving people, and that's what we need to understand as police officers, and I encourage police officers on a day-to-day basis. Remember that you're serving people, you understand? And that's why I think one time we were having a debate as to whether we should go to a police, whether we should reword it to a police, from a police force to a police service. And I, for one, agree, because I think some of us we have the wrong perception of the word force. And we believe that because we are the word force, that you should use a certain level of force. But I'm very proud of the man that I am because of the assistance that I got from the police force. And I can tell you, as you said earlier, I applaud you for recognizing the amount of good police officers. 99%, 95% of the police force are good men and women. Good men and women. I'm an example of that. I'm an example of that. So, and I had a chance to work with them. And you know, sometimes the media creates a certain image of the police, and people take that and they run with that, and you know. But if you get a chance to interact with the police on a personal level, you'll understand that they have families, they belong to organizations, they volunteer. Here's an ex-police officer, and I'm saying that so you can see for yourself.
Well, my whole life has been, I'm the son of a police officer.
Yes.
The last time we checked, we had somewhere between 20 and 25 members of our family who are either current police officers or served in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Herman Rich, Deputy Commissioner, Alphonse Rich, Superintendent, they are inspectors, they had all ranks. So we are really a police family. And
Mikunov is even further blessed with police officers. Right now, when I look at my voters list, I see about 197 police officers.
Yeah, in fact, Miku, as Miku, has provided more police officers than any other constituency in the last 20 years.
Yeah, and not just any police officer, you know. Mikunov continues to show you that we produce deputy commissioners of police who I will say, and I will say it anywhere that I go, I believe that we have about 3 or 4 potential commissioners of police within the constituency. You understand? Because we have the assistant commissioner, Ms. Pelius, the deputy commissioner, Mr. O'Brien. We have superintendent, what's his name, Gaston. And in my humble opinion, I can tell you, I believe that all of these individuals who I just mentioned are fully able and fully capable of taking over the helm of the organization. Indeed. So we are very blessed in Mikunov as it pertains to police officers and security.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, my guest this evening, the St. Lucia Labour Party candidate for the constituency of Miku North, Jeremiah Norbert. As I said, I can't call him by his number anymore. He's no longer there. You heard him. You'll now get a chance to speak with him yourself. We'll take a break. When we come back, the number to call is 452-2693, or you can WhatsApp me, and I'll pass on your message to you. Take a break. Back in a moment. With us, my guest, Jeremiah Norbert, Labour Party, Miku North candidate. I'm getting a few. 2 of the texts are from Canada, actually. One is saying, asking about what role does Jeremiah see himself playing in the new Labour administration? Does he have aspirations to be a minister? Of course, I understand that's ultimately left to the Prime Minister, but does he have any aspirations? Another one says, they actually believe, he says he's not from Miku, neither is EWP, but he rather suspects if Sir John were alive, Sir John would have endorsed you. But, okay, so we're back on air. Your primary focus is being a parliamentarian to represent the people of Miku North. Does it matter to you if you get a ministry or not?
To be quite honest, Claudius, as you said, the reason I got into politics was to represent the people of Miku North. And that is what is most important to me right now. Everything after that is a second fold. If, as you said, that is left up to the political leader or the Prime Minister, the next Prime Minister, but it does not really bother me whether or not I am given a ministry or not. Right now, as I think Miku North deserves a lot of attention. They require a lot of attention in Miku North. My main focus is to represent the people of Miku North. As I said, everything else will come after, but as we speak right now, it is to represent the people of Miku North.
Okay. 452-2693 is the number. I think I heard the phone ringing. We can take your calls in a little bit. Somebody says, yes, that former Commissioner Hemingway also recommended the name change similar to Jeremiah, but this was not accepted. I know the Trinidad and Tobago Police is a service. I'm trying to remember which others. Barbados is force, Dominica is force,
Yeah.
St. Vincent is force. The majority does have the F, but I remember when the debate came up about service. I am for the name change myself, but the name change is immaterial if you're not going to have the quality of individual to subscribe to that name change. And goes back to what we spoke about earlier, having men and women of integrity in the first place.
Yep.
So that's... Hi, good night. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good night. My brother Claudius, good night to my comrade, young comrade. And my question tonight to him is that I have seen a number of his, in fact, his followers being very young people. I would like him to do us one favor. As a young politician, the young people of St. Lucia predominantly does not vote. What say you to the young people around St. Lucia? And I want to say that I'm speaking on behalf of Dr. Pauline, and I want that information to go to the young people of Suzel on the western side of St. Lucia. I would like to hear what is your views and what can you can say to them to encourage them to vote, because it's important this election that our young people play their part, because tomorrow it is them that's going to have the mantle of the death of the United Workers' Party. What say you, my brother? Good night again.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, caller. From inception, from my candidacy, I've always made it. I've always made a point that young people need to understand the value of their vote. Young people need to understand that they outnumber. When you look at the statistics, the young people outnumber the older folks. Yet still we have a higher voter turnout as it relates to the older people. We as young people need to break that status quo and that idea of where people believe that, oh, because we're young, we have a voice. And the only way that we can allow our voice to be heard is by going out there and by casting our ballots on election day and by demanding what we want. If we go out there as young people and we stand and as one, you understand, and we let our voices heard, we can now go there and demand what we want. And that is why I encourage young people and let them know that politics affects every decision that you're going to make. It affects your educational attainment. It affects the criminal justice system in St. Lucia. It affects everything from the price of the groceries in the supermarket. So we as young people need to start showing more interest in politics, because we cannot run away from the fact that politics is going to affect us every day.
And you find that, 2011, 3 votes separated one candidate,
Yes.
5 another candidate. In ancillary candidacy several years ago, 1 vote, a single vote, decided who won, who lost. So you're quite right. Hi, good night. Thanks for calling. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good night.
Yes? Good night.
Go ahead, caller. Go ahead.
Yes, good night, Claudius.
Good night.
Good night, Jeremiah.
Good night.
Just want to wish Jeremiah all the best and encouraging him to keep on going on. We are all praying for him. We are praying for you, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
We are there with you. We are supporting you. And I assure you that you are going to make it through.
Thank you.
Just keep hope alive. We are there with you.
Thanks a million.
Be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is
Thank
from
you.
a former police officer who says, since I'm not good at getting the line, I want to say I'm so impressed by this young man. I was in discussion with some movers and shakers in Mico North, and his name was never part of the conversation. When we heard of him, some were dismissive. I had never heard of him. After first hearing him on Monday's show, I asked the movers to listen to him and to tell me their opinion. They all came back with favorable reports. Now, I'm not a drinking man, but I've promised to get drunk when Jeremiah wins. It's a former police officer. Hi, good night. Thanks for calling.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah. Hello, I'm on the line?
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Good evening.
Yes, I just want to make a good contribution to your guest. And I was very unhappy when I heard he had that accident and this guy come back
and I think he's very, very good at what he's talking about. And I'm calling from Rodney Bay, North Groseley area. And all the statement that he makes there is a very, very good statement. And I wish all the others would try to get everybody to come together to deal with this problem we have on this island of St. Lucia. We never know we were supposed to be on lockdown for over a year. And nobody's still feeling sorry for the smaller business people. I hope we do not have this problem again. And when the Labour Party win this election, whenever it comes, I want to know if that emergency will not be able to.
Caller, that's why we have to get vaccinated. Once we get to that 70%, we can begin to ease down and live life as we used to. So let's encourage our people to go out there and get vaccinated so we can get that herd immunity.
Also, I'm involved in the yachting industry. I want our yachting industry to come back on track because it looks like they're not paying any attention to this yachting industry for us. We need to get this thing going back together to get everybody happy, doing what they have to do. That is right. We don't want no victimization. We have problems with the TX. They're doing what they want. They make us go up the mon. We pay money. We have pirates doing what they want. Nobody said nothing. Everybody saying they St. Lucian. The same thing Jeremiah talking about Miku. We have to fix up Miku so we can drive by, do a drive-by in Miku, get a couple little bars well organized by the beach, so a little piece of the pie from the tourists can be organized. Everything is in the north. The north already jumped back with traffic. The guests complaining by the time they drive. That traffic is a problem. I don't even know if that extra lane they're doing there might be able to solve that problem. Because we have it from by glass going up. Very, very bad. We do not even know. They talk about the bypass from Henry a long time. I heard that John Compton spoke about. But I don't know when that will ever come back in history.
Yeah.
I drove down the road there a couple of days ago. I see they do a little piece of where that breakdown on the bad lane. So we have to figure out how we can get all these good things. This little small piece of road can't be fixed yet to help the people to move up and down. And we have other places that could have stayed back behind. We don't waste that money and do the right things with the money. So you see, when we do plan things right with the money, you see what that will happen. And everybody will be paying for this long bill this man put on us. I was a supporter of the United Workers' Party, but I don't think I will support them again. So I go in labor for the first time in history. So you go make history in Miku, boss. If so, you have everybody to support you. Good night.
Thanks a million. And
thank you, sir.
When people text, I don't usually call their names, but the last text I read, where the person said they're not a drinking man, but they get drunk when you win. Person has text back and said that it's okay to use their name and don't say former police officer, that it's actually former superintendent of police, Albert Fraziers. So
okay.
You have the man going to get drunk whenever elections.
And I just want to agree with the caller, Claudius, that the drive to the hotels from Castries, from Viewfort to Castries should be a relaxing drive. You understand? Not a long drive. And when I say relaxing drive, the first stop should be somewhere in the Micoud area so that they can have a drink.
Okay. Hi, good night. Thanks for calling. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good night.
Good night, Claudius, and let me say good night to Jeremiah.
Good night, sir.
I honestly don't know him personally, but hearing him impresses me a lot. I have a question for him, and it's from a sporting perspective. I remember that there would be a hotel called Le Paradis between Micoud North and Dennery, and those two districts have produced a number of sportsmen. What I found strange was that nobody make it a requisite that the guy building the hotel would have made a contribution to either Dennery or Micoud in terms of a sporting facility. I'm not saying to build.
The guys were in the hotel?
The guy building the hotel.
Oh, the guys building the hotel?
Yeah, the hotel contractors, whoever building the hotel, who the investors were.
Right.
did not make they would have asked to make a contribution between Denry or Miku. And I felt, but how could you build a massive hotel within two major sporting districts? And let's not forget, Denry has produced a number of national players in all sports.
All sports, yeah.
And that developer was never asked to make a contribution. Now, then we have issues with sports facilities.
The only thing I can say, caller, is that generally developers make those contributions post the construction of the places, when they're running, when the business is running.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of developers.
No, well, you see, at the time, Miku North was looking for a playing field. I think the government had just built the one playing field.
No, I'm totally in agreement with you. I'm simply saying, ordinarily, developers begin making those sorts of contributions when the project is completed and running. But I'm in agreement with you that it is something we're going to look at in the future.
Yes, it's something that he needs to look at. I don't know him as a sportsman. In fact, I've never met a gentleman before. I'm very impressed with him. I hope he has played some sports growing up as a young man. But I think Miku now is asking for improvement in their sporting facility.
Yeah.
They have just put on a playing field, and it's not just the playing field for football. There's cricket, there's netball, there's other sports. What is your opinion or what is your view on what is happening in Miku from a sporting perspective?
Okay, thanks a lot, caller.
Okay, caller, as we speak, I've received several requests from my constituents, especially in the Monopo area, about lights on the Monopo playing field. I know you asked whether I played any sports. Yes, I did. I played some football, some cricket. I managed a football team for about 6 years. So football is something that I have a love for, especially in any sporting discipline. I have a love for sports generally, but football and cricket are my two greatest disciplines.
So let's take that final call. Hi, good night. Thanks for calling.
Hello, good night.
Yes, go ahead quickly, your final caller.
Yeah. Listening to you all tonight, I developed a great admiration for Mr. Norbert, because in all his speech, his talk, he has never said anything negative or mentioned Gail's name in anything negative. And his desire is to represent the whole of Mikud North, both red and yellow. And that is great. That's a very good quality which he has in him. Very few persons would have been in his position there and not have mentioned there's so many things he could have said negative about what's going on in Mikud North presently. But he has not done any of that. And that is good and great. Good night.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you for your contribution, caller. And I'd like to just make mention, Claudius, that my politics is not about what the opposition has done, what the current incumbent has done or has not done. It's about what I can do for my constituency, what Jeremiah Norbert will do for the people of Mikud North. What are my plans and my intentions for the people of Mikud North? For too long, as I said, Mikud North has been sidelined from, as we see, like we've been an outcast or an illegitimate child of the UWP government. So they treat us, we've been taken for granted for a very long time. So for me, it is about restoring that togetherness in Mikud North, about bringing back opportunities, seeing more tertiary graduates coming from the constituency. It's about seeing our sporting facilities bring back, see now we have new the young children feeling comfortable. We have areas where our young children can go out and play, seeing our farmers being able to go back to their farms, seeing our fishers stop complaining about the sargassum issue in Mikud North because they have received what they're asking for in terms of a jetty. That is what it is about for me, what the plans and intentions are about Mikud North. Whatever, I don't think that there's anything that I can say about what has been happening in Mikud North that the rest of St. Lucia don't know. So I will not take time on a show to mention about what could have been done or what has me is about what we can do as a people for Mikud North.
Right, Jeremiah, believe it or not, we are at the end. Any final words from you?
Yes, Claudius, I would just like to thank you for having me on the show. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, callers, for the words of encouragement. My people of Miku North, as I've said from inception, Miku says Sanu, and you can take it that Miku belongs to us. This is our time. Let us put our heads together. Let's put our resources together. Let us come together as a constituency, as a community, and develop our community. Let us take the responsibility. To my farmers, my fishers, I let you all know that your cries are not falling on deaf ears. I've heard, so I'm just asking to have a bit of patience. My young people, the unemployed, those affected by COVID, I ask you to just have a bit of patience. Sooner than later, that we're going to have Jeremiah Norbert as the parliamentary rep from Miku North, and we're going to have the Central Labour Party sitting as a sitting government, and I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to hold the Central Labour Party responsible and ensure that they're giving Miku North what belongs to us, and I'm going to advocate and agitate on behalf of the constituents of Miku North. I know what they're asking for is representation, and I know that Jeremiah Norbert is going to give the representation that the people of Miku North have been asking for a very long time.
Okay, just before I say good night, Claudia told Jerry I'm voting in Viewfort for Kenny, but I live in Miku and I'm campaigning big time for Jeremiah. And when he wins the next election, I will be celebrating for an entire month.
Thank you.
Wow. Look like we're going to have people of Miku will not be working for, for the entire month.
Yeah, we take one holiday in Miku North after the election.
Okay. All right, folks.